John, the 13th chapter, beginning with verse 31. I want to challenge us this morning with a question. I love your theme, love without limits. But I want to ask you before we get to the theme, what's love? What's love? Question that I'm asking. You know, I came across a Scottish tale, and it started as one day in the village, an eagle swooped down and took a baby and went back to its nest. And when it got to its nest, the men of the village chased after it, and they had to climb up a cliff because eagles make their nest high so no one can get to them. And they kept trying to climb. Each one of them would try to climb up that cliff to get to the nest. And none of them could reach it. But while the last one was coming down, a frail woman started climbing up that cliff. And she passed the one that was coming down. And she kept climbing, and she reached the nest, got the baby, and came back down. And all of the men looked at themselves and looked at her and said, how is it that we couldn't make it up there? But this frail woman, she did. And she turned and looked to him and said, I had something invested in that baby because I'm that baby's mama. I say that because when you got something invested in love, there's nothing you will do. There's no limit that you will have because of the love that I'm going to tell you about this morning. That love that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the puppy love. I'm not talking about the first scene love. I'm not even talking about the love. This is kind of funny. I've done several weddings before, and I had the privilege of doing a couple yesterday at our church. They got married, and this is the first time, Brother Sample, that this happened to me. I was doing the vows, and it was the ring exchange, and I wasn't really paying attention, and the groom was putting the ring on the bride's wrong hand, and he was having a hard time getting it on that finger. And I even made a joke, didn't I, Brother Green? I said, do you need some help there, my brother? And it come to find out the reason why he had a hard time going on the finger is because it was on the wrong hand. And I started thinking about that, and I started thinking about, why is it that this love that I understand, that I've been talked about, that's been told to me, that I've been raised in all my life, why am I having a hard time adjusting to what this love I'm supposed to do? And you know what? One of the reasons why I'm having a hard time adjusting to it is because I don't see it as a verb. I see it as a noun. I can tell you what love is. I can tell you who I need to love. Brother Thomas, I love him to death. He got up here and spoke about my love for my family and my wife and Mount Moriah in Galilee. And all of that speaks well. But the question is it just words or the action involved with that? What is happening that causes me to see that I must love? Why? Because of my relationship that I have with the Lord. Well, let's look. Let's go to our text. Because our text is I love this text. It's so interesting. And I'll tell you why. You'll understand why. Here they are, the disciples, they at the Lord Last Supper. And they're all sitting around, and Jesus is sitting with them. And as they all sitting around the table, all of a sudden, Jesus gets up, and he girts himself. He gets a pail and pours some water in it, and he starts washing their feet. And they see this, and they are astonished. Wait a minute, what are you doing? Even Peter said, wait a minute, what are you doing, Jesus? I don't want you to wash my feet. And Jesus said, if I don't wash your feet, if I don't wash your feet, you won't learn what it means to love. He says, you know what? I need you to understand this, is that what I'm doing as your master, I'm demonstrating to you as a servant. How great am I if I don't recognize who you are? And so when he got finished telling him that, Peter said, don't just wash my feet, wash my whole body if it means that I'm going to be associated with you. And so then they went through, and as he got through washing their feet, and they were sitting there, and Jesus had a revelation that came to him, and he said, one of you are going to betray me. And they began to say, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Now, you just didn't wash our feet. You didn't done all this. And now I know you're talking about somebody going to betray you. Wait a minute. So who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Is it the one that was laying on his breast said, is it I? And Jesus said, the one that sups with me is who it is. And he said, and then he dipped it, as John recalls it, and handed it to Judas. And Judas partook of it. And it says at that point, and this is the part that really caught me, it says that Jesus felt something in regards to what he was getting ready to do. He felt a spirit that did not need to be in the presence of what he was getting ready to explain. And so then he said, go and do what you've been summoned to do. In essence, the devil had entered Judas at that time. And because he had entered and Jesus realized and felt the presence of the devil entering him, he banned him from the presence. It's interesting because when I look at that, the thing that comes to mind the most is that in order for me to have the love that Christ is speaking about, there's some stuff that I got to get rid of. There's some stuff that I can't carry all that I'm carrying into love and expect to get the result that I want from love. I got to first of all realize that, there's some stuff in me that got to get out. There's some jealousy that got to get out. There's some anger that got to get out. There's some not wanting to be around a presence. There's some stuff that got to get out of me. And guess what? The beauty of it is he knows it's in you. He knew when it came in you. And what he's saying is, in Judas' case, he told him to get out. But in our case, he's telling it to get out of us. He says, you know what? I want y'all to listen to me. Because I need you to understand what love is. He said, first of all, it's a requirement that you need to understand. He says, I'm giving you a new command. He says, I'm commanding you to love, and love as I have loved you and one another. He says, okay. Now this was pretty much his second command, because the first one is love the Lord with all your heart. And the second one is love your neighbor as yourself. And so basically this is reflection of the second one that he spoke of. What he's saying here is that I need you to understand one thing, that before you move, you want to walk with me, you want to be in fellowship with me. Well, there's a requirement that you must have in that fellowship. And the first requirement of that is love. And you need to understand, first of all, what that means when I say love. I need you to understand that what I'm talking about is getting out of self and letting the Lord direct your path. The love I'm talking about is you got to be able to say, deny myself and follow him. You got to be able to say the love that I'm speaking of, the requirement that I'm speaking of, speaks to the fact that you have a relationship with me and you're willing to let anybody know that I am the head of your life. He said, now, you disciples, it was interesting how he was talking to them. I would think, the thing that came to my mind was, why is Jesus telling his disciples how to love? They've been walking with him for 3 years, Brother Wyman. They've been watching him do miracle after miracle. They've been watching him do all, but yet he got to tell them at this stage how to love. You would think at this point they would know exactly how to love. They would understand all they've seen is Christ giving love. You would think that what they would be saying is, oh, we just want the opportunity to do what you're doing, Jesus. You would think that would be, but no, it wasn't. All they were thinking about is who gonna be next? Who gonna be next to him? Who gonna be this? Who gonna do? All they could think about was self. One point to remember is this: if you're looking at love, self can't be in the equation. We got to know in whom our Redeemer is and what he requires of us. He says, you know what? I need you to do this. He said, I need you to realize, first of all, that you are a servant. And as a servant, you must serve those that I bring you in contact with. You must serve them regardless of how they act, regardless of what they say, regardless of what they do. Well, then I got to reflect back on my brother, and I said, man, 29 years. He said the Lord told him when he stepped in here at Mount Moriah that you're going to have to be a requirement to love. And I know my brother, because I know I said the same thing. What you mean, Pastor? What you mean, Lord? What you talking about? It's a requirement. He said, yeah. He said, there's a requirement because, see, there's going to be some folk that don't like you. There's going to be some folk that's going to talk about you. There's going to be some folks that ain't going to follow you. There's going to be some folks that want to get rid of you. But you got to love in spite of whatever the situation is. Why is it? Because your relationship is not with Mount Moriah. Your relationship is with me. And because I am in you. What did Jesus say? He said, the Father is in me as I am in the Father. Why can he tell them how to love? Because he had the love of God inside of him that moved him. 29 years of feeling the love of God and expressing that to his people. See, this is not a fairy tale situation. Jesus is not telling them about a fairy tale. He's telling them what's getting ready to happen that they don't even realize yet. He's letting them know that there's a requirement that you're going to have to bring to the table. You're going to have to put it up here right now. You're going to have to realize that you are a servant of the Most High God. He said, and as a servant of him, that requires you to serve others. He says, understand that. He says, you know what? I don't really think y'all hearing me. He says, you're giving me the looks. They don't speak to that. So let me break it down to you. He said, let me break it down. I'm going to break it down in a couple ways. He said, first of all, I want you to see why you called upon by me, Jesus, to love one another. He said, then I want you to ask some questions as to, am I moving in accord to what this love is that he's talking about? He says, did you know, the 2 commandments I gave you, love the Lord, and of course, love your neighbor as yourself. These were written down. These are what I'm speaking to as the 2 commandments that I'm expecting you to do. He says, but I want to give you some kind of explanation as to why you need to do that. He says, I need you to understand that this love that I'm speaking about is what's going to fill you when everybody walks away from you. This love that I'm talking about is what's going to give you the courage when you want to deny who I am. This love that I'm talking about is going to enable you to seek my forgiveness when you turn your back on me. This love that I'm speaking of is going to enable you to preach this word that I've been putting in you for 3 years, but yet you don't realize you got it in you yet. This love that I'm speaking to is a requirement that I'm telling you is a link from the Father through me to you. He says, I want you to understand. Look at what I'm saying to you. Look at what I've done for you. I'm demonstrating to you that love can conquer all. I'm demonstrating to you that love surpasses all. I'm demonstrating to you that when love is on the table, there ain't no room for nothing else. He says, I want you to see. I want you to understand that when you have the love that I'm speaking about, you are a reflection of my Father. He He says, I want you to know because he's in me and I'm in him, and so he's a reflection of me. So what you see from me, you ought to be able to see the Father. That's the love I'm talking about. The love that he's given to me. Oh, wretched, and I'm speaking about FITZHUGH now. Oh, wretched soul that I am. But yet he looked down and smiled on me and gave me his love before I gave him mine. But that's the love that he's talking about. You know, I saw a story about a young boy that had mangled his foot, and the doctor talked to him and said, hey, we're going to do all this. We're going to do this, put a pin in, we're going to do all these things. He said, okay, doc. He said, I believe you the man, you know what to do. He said, okay, I just wanted to let you know. He said, that's okay, doc. You know what to do. He says, you know what to do. So he said, okay. So he gave surgery, and it was success. The boy's foot was in position right. It was set as it should. And his friend came by to visit him in the hospital. And he said, hey, man. He said, boy, he said, that foot looked good. He said, man, whatever took place, man, it was good. He just smiled. And he said, yeah, that doctor's something else. He said, yeah. He said, but you know what? Man, the nurses in this hospital sure are nice. He said, they were so nice to me. They showed me your room. They asked if I wanted anything. They were so nice. He said, yeah, they are. But that doctor, he's something else. He said, yeah, okay. He said, yeah, I know. I heard you. He said, but then, you know, this hospital, man, this is all right. The first time I've been here, this is really nice. The hospital is really good. It's so roomy. It's so nice. He said, yeah, I know. But that doctor, he's all right. He said, okay, man, all right. They say you're going home tomorrow. He said, yeah, I'm going to come by and pick you up. So he came, picked him up. He took him home. And when he got him home, his mother saw him, said, oh, I'm so glad you're home. She looked at his foot. She said, oh, look at that foot. It looks so good. Compared to what it looked like when you went in there, I'm looking at it now and it looks so good. He said, yeah, I know, mama. He said, but why are you so surprised at how well it looks? She said, what you mean, son? She said, you know the doctor and you know what he does. And when you see my foot, all you seeing is reflection of that doctor, because that doctor can do it. And what I'm saying to you is this: when you are a reflection of the Lord, it doesn't matter how mangled and tangled and broken you've become. They ought to see the love of Christ reflection in you. So when they look at you, they might be marveling at, oh, I remember when. But what you're telling me is, by the grace and the goodness of my Father, so stand I right here. Wasn't nothing I did, but it's what hell he did. I can thank him because he's so good. And you ought to know, because I'm telling you, what you see here ain't me, but it's the God in me. We ought to be a reflection of this love that he's talking about. He says it's a requirement. He says not only is a requirement, but he says it's also a responsibility. He said, I want you to know it's a responsibility in what I'm asking you to do. Why is that? Because I'm asking you to do some stuff that you ain't gonna want to do. I'm asking you to give love when you don't want to give it. I'm asking you to, in the face of issues, in the face of being ridiculed, in the face of being turned your back upon, you are going to have the responsibility to know that I have empowered you to overcome whatever situation you face. You know, I didn't understand what that really meant. I didn't understand about the responsibility of what love is. I understood that I need to demonstrate the love. I understood I needed to have agape love. I understood I needed to look beyond issues and all those things. But that was a noun of it. The problem I was having was the verb of it. And that was to put it in action. See, I understood what it meant. But every time it was an opportunity to make it a verb, I stepped back. I didn't want to give when he was telling me you got the responsibility to give. And so you know what he did? The Lord does it, and I love it how he does it. He might have done this to some of y'all too. He brings somebody in your life that will show you what he's talking about. I said, and in my case, he brought my big brother, Brother Arthur Sample. He brought him in my life. When I reflected on this, the Lord he said, I want you to think back. He said, I know this is his anniversary, but I want you to speak to his heart to let him know that his work has not gone void. I want you to speak it to his heart and let him know that if nobody else says it, and I know that ain't the case, don't get mad at me, y'all, because I know y'all love Arthur Sam. I know y'all do. I know, but let me tell you, I love him too. And what I'm saying is, what he spoke into my life at a time where I didn't want to do the verb love. And what he told me was, let me tell you something. He says, I understand how you feel. He said, but let me ask you a question, and I never will forget it. He said, if that individual, if that person that you got this problem with left tomorrow and died, what would you say? Would you still be as man now as you are, or would be then? Thomas, I had to stop. I had to look at that because, see, as long as it's a noun, I don't got to address it. But when you're asking me to act on something, now that's a whole different story. And see, the problem is, when the Lord moves something out of my way, then I want to get to walking. But what he says is, I don't need you to walk by sight. I need you to walk by faith. I need you to understand that when you step into that situation, they might not receive you. They might not want to forgive you. They might think that they over top of you. But what you got to remember is this: your love didn't come from them. Your love came from the Lord. And when your love comes from him, there's a responsibility that you got. Don't tell me what they did to you. Don't tell me how bad they treated you. Because there's a responsibility. When you call yourself a child of the King, there's a responsibility that you got to love whether they want to receive your love or not. You got to love whether they want to hear about your love or not. You got to love because it's your responsibility. Jesus said, let me tell y'all something. He says, y'all going to be servants. He said, that as servants, they're going to talk about you. They're going to hate you. They're going to run from you, but you got a responsibility to be a lover of God's people. It ain't based on how you feel. Feeling ain't got nothing to do with it. Love don't have nothing to do with emotion. That's the misconception the world has. It said love is about how you make me feel. Love ain't got nothing to do with that. I learned, and my wife had to teach me that. 20 some odd years, 23 years that we going on this year. And yeah, we stood before my father, and yeah, we was beaming in each other's eyes. But didn't neither one of us know what love was, because we was working on the noun of it. But we ain't started the verb yet. But then the devil said, as he got into Judas, he got into our marriage and said, let me see if you really do love. He said, I want to see if what you said on that beautiful day, you mean today. He says, I'm going to see, are you willing to have a responsibility in loving who I put you with? Or are you going to be on emotion? When it's good, you good, and when it's bad, you bad. But oh, grace be to God. I can say because he taught us how to be a responsible Christian, how to know our love starts with him first before it starts with us. We had to know. Oh, you know what? Let me tell you this. The other day, my car, I shouldn't do this, but Lace, it got on E, man. And see, it tells you in there and say, hey, you got 36 more miles. Now, you can play if you want to. But these cars are telling you how much longer you got. So I was like, okay, all right. I don't want that gas station. I want this one. Well, that one is 15 miles away. It says you only got 36. Well, I'm going to go because I don't want to put that gas in. I want to put this gas in. Y'all know how you get. When the Lord tells you You need to love. And you say, I hear you, Lord. Tomorrow, I'm going to get in there and love. But today, I still want to, let me get myself together. And so I got down 15 more. And hey, now it was supposed to be 15 less, but Ricky said 10 less. I thought I had a little leeway. I said, it don't really know what it's talking about. So I said, I got 26. I can go now. I ain't got to worry about it. Well, I drove around the corner, and I'll be dog if that thing didn't change down to 16 miles. I said, now how in the world did he go from 16 to, and all I did was go around the corner. It said, because what you thought it was wasn't necessarily what it was. You thought you had time. You thought you could do what you wanted to do. You thought you could make it last. But see, it wasn't in your plan. It's in his plan. Because the responsibility is not yours. It's what he has given you to do. So when I saw that, I said, if it can change 10 miles in just going around the corner, let me go here, because I need to get gas now, because I don't know what's going to happen next. The thing I'm trying to point out is this: you don't know how long you got. Don't waste time saying, I might. Realize you got a responsibility today to love. You got a responsibility right now to love. And love is not a noun, it's a verb. That means show me what you talking about.
What an awesome message. And here's an opportunity for all of us to participate in the blessing of giving by using our PayPal link on our website, www.3mbc.org, www.facebook.com/MMMBC, or by U.S. mail. Thank you, and may God continue to bless and keep you.